A $400 million prototype electric hypercar, the Simmons Aura, dies on a rain-slicked mountain road. The man inside, dressed in a faded jacket and worn-out jeans, is stranded with no cell service. He is Coby Simmons, the invisible billionaire whose company built the car. As the temperature drops, the only headlights he sees belong to a sputtering 1998 Honda. The young waitress inside, Taylor, is finishing a double shift, exhausted and broke. She offers the stranger a ride. She has no idea that this single act of kindness and the cruelty she's about to endure in front of him will cost one man his entire future and change her life forever. The rain wasn't just falling, it was attacking. It hammered the carbon fiber roof of the Simmons Aura prototype with a sound like aggressive drumming. Inside, the silence of the dead electric engine was deafening. "Well," Coby Simmons muttered to the empty passenger seat, "the new battery manifold is an unequivocal failure." He slammed his hand on the steering wheel, a rare show of frustration. This was why he did these tests himself. His engineers, his board, his sycophantic VPs, they all lived in a world of simulations and sterile test tracks. They'd assured him the Aura was ready, that its revolutionary power cell was flawless. And here it was, a $400 million brick on a deserted stretch of Oregon's Skyline Drive, with the nearest town, a speck called Pineview, at least 15 miles away. Worse, his specialized satellite phone, integrated into the car's console, was as dead as the engine. His personal cell phone displayed a single, mocking phrase: "No service." Coby Simmons was not a man accustomed to being powerless. At 48, he was the sole owner of Simmons Dynamics, a global conglomerate that dipped into aerospace, private equity, and advanced technology. His name was whispered in the halls of power, but his face was rarely seen. He detested the spotlight, preferring the quiet anonymity of his R&D labs. Today, he'd worn his testing clothes, faded Levi's, worn-out work boots, and an old field jacket he'd had since college. He looked less like a billionaire and more like a local mechanic who'd lost a fight with an engine block. The temperature inside the car was dropping fast. The rain turned to a sharp, stinging sleet. He was weighing the high-probability risk of hypothermia against the low-probability chance of another car passing when a pair of weak, flickering headlights cut through the gloom. They belonged to a 1998 Honda Civic that looked like it was held together by rust and optimism. The car slowed, its engine rattling in a way that made Coby wince. It pulled up, and the passenger window rolled down, slowly, with the agonizing screech of a failing motor. Inside, Taylor Riley gripped the wheel, her heart pounding. Her shift manager at the diner, Henderson, had a strict rule: never stop for anyone on Skyline Drive at night. But the man in the futuristic, wedge-shaped car, a car she didn't recognize but which looked impossibly expensive, looked less like a threat and more like a drowned rat. He was soaked, shivering, and staring at his dead car with a look of pure, unadulterated frustration she recognized. It was the same look she wore every time her own car refused to start. "You okay in there?" she called out, her voice barely carrying over the storm. Coby approached the window. "My car's dead. Battery, I think." "That thing runs on a battery?" Taylor looked at the sleek, alien machine. "Looks like something out of a movie." She sighed, tapping her fingers on the dashboard. She was already late. Her younger sister Lila would be waiting for her call. She was tired, her feet ached from her double shift, and her tips tonight wouldn't even cover the gas she was burning. But she couldn't just leave him. "Look," she said, "I'm heading down to Pineview. It's the only thing for miles. My car's heater is, well, it's warmish. You can wait at the diner where I work. It's called the Lookout. We've got a landline. You can call a tow truck." Coby studied her. She looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes, her cheap diner uniform rumpled under a thin raincoat. She wasn't asking for money. She wasn't acting star-struck. Why would she? She was just offering help. It was a currency he rarely encountered. "I'd appreciate that," he said, his voice rough from the cold. "More than you know. My name's Greg. Taylor." He grabbed his satchel from the Aura, containing only a dead laptop and a notepad, and climbed into the passenger seat of the Honda. The car smelled of stale coffee, French fries, and a faint, sweet hint of cinnamon air freshener. The suspension groaned under his weight, and as Taylor pulled back onto the road, the windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the deluge. "Your car," Coby said, trying to make conversation over the rattling engine. "It looks custom." Taylor laughed, a short, tired bark. "Oh, it's custom, all right. Custom built from 3 different junkyards. But she runs, mostly. What about yours? Never seen one like it." "It's a prototype," Coby said, deciding to stick as close to the truth as possible. "From a company in California. I'm testing it." "Well, I'd say the test failed," she replied, a small smile playing on her lips. The rest of the drive was a tense, rattling 15 minutes. Taylor was focused on the road, her knuckles white on the steering wheel, as the Honda hydroplaned twice on the slick asphalt. Coby, for his part, was quiet. He was observing. He saw the check engine light was on, covered by a piece of electrical tape. He saw the small, framed photo taped to her dashboard. A smiling, pale girl with a knit cap, sitting in what looked like a hospital bed. He was a man who analyzed systems, and the system in front of him, this young woman, her failing car, the photo of the sick child, was one of failure and resilience. They finally pulled into the parking lot of the Lookout Diner. It was a classic 1950s-style building, its neon sign flickering, the O in Lookout dead. Only 2 other cars were in the lot, a late-model BMW and a rusty pickup truck. "We're here," Taylor said, shutting off the engine. The subsequent silence was almost as loud as the storm. "It's not much, but the coffee's hot and the phone's on the wall. Mr. Henderson, the owner, is probably anxious to close, but he won't kick you out if you're waiting for a tow." "Thank you, Taylor," Coby said, and he meant it. He hadn't been shown simple, expectation-free kindness in a very long time. "Don't mention it," she sighed, unbuckling. "Time to face the music. Hopefully Brenton Holloway is gone." "Brenton Holloway?" Coby asked. "You'll see," Taylor said, her voice laced with a sudden, profound weariness. "He's the owner of the BMW, and the reason my feet feel like they're going to fall off." She grabbed her apron from the back seat, and they both made a dash through the rain for the diner's entrance. The bell above the door chimed weakly as they entered, bringing them out of the storm and into a different kind of turmoil. The Lookout Diner was a time capsule. The red vinyl on the booths was cracked, the checkered floor was worn down to the bare tile in front of the counter, and the air hummed with the buzz of a fluorescent light that couldn't quite decide if it was on or off. It smelled of old grease, bleach, and the damp wool of Coby's jacket. At the counter, a man who could only be Mr. Henderson was wiping down the chrome coffee machine. He was thin, with a permanently stressed expression and a pencil behind his ear. He looked up as they entered, and his expression soured. "Taylor, you're clocking out. Don't tell me you're coming back in." "Just needed to use the phone, Mr. Henderson," Taylor said, already moving behind the counter to hang up her wet coat. "This man," she gestured to Coby. "His car broke down up on Skyline. He needs to call a tow." Henderson eyed Coby's soaked, disheveled appearance with open suspicion. "A tow truck? From here? Good luck. Closest one is in Portland, And on a night like this, they'll charge you $500 just to unlock the doors. Phone's on the wall. Paper call. Appreciated, Coby said, his voice flat. He was used to being assessed, on his balance sheet, his company's stock price, his net worth. Being assessed as a vagrant was new and interesting. "Oh, wonderful," a voice boomed from the back booth. "The help is back, and she brought in a drowned rat. Can I get some actual service over here?" Coby turned. In the back booth, holding an empty coffee cup aloft like a trophy, was a man in his late 30s. His suit was expensive, a Zegna, Coby noted idly, and his $30,000 Patek Philippe watch caught the dim light. This was Brenton Holloway. The woman across from him looked bored, scrolling through her phone, annoyed at being in this low-rent establishment. "Taylor, sweetheart," Holloway sneered, snapping his fingers. "My cup is empty. Has been for 10 minutes. What's the point of you even being here?" Taylor's shoulders tensed. Coby could see the flush creep up her neck. She forced a bright, plastic smile. "I'm sorry, Mr. Holloway. I'm actually clocked out. But I'll get Janine for you." "Janine's on her smoke break because you were late," Henderson hissed from the counter. Just get him the coffee, Taylor. Please, I don't need the 1-star Yelp review. You know how he is." Taylor's smile faltered, but she nodded. She grabbed a pot of coffee and walked over to the booth. Coby, meanwhile, moved to the payphone. He picked up the receiver, inserting a quarter. He didn't need a tow truck. He needed his head of security, Gavin. He dialed the number from memory. It rang once, twice, and then a recorded voice. "All circuits are busy. Please try your call again later." The storm was wreaking havoc on the phone lines. He was still stuck. He hung up the phone, the quarter clanging into the return slot. He was trapped here, a spectator. He turned and leaned against the wall, watching the drama unfold. "And make it hot this time," Holloway was saying as Taylor poured. The last cup was lukewarm. "It's like you're actively trying to be bad at this. Is that it? Is this some kind of performance art? The incompetent waitress?" The woman with him giggled, not even looking up from her phone. "I'm sorry, sir. It's a fresh pot," Taylor said, her voice tight. "It's always a fresh pot. It's never your fault, is it?" Holloway leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial, slimy tone. "Listen, Taylor. You're pretty, in a tired sort of way. But this whole diner waitress thing, it's a dead end. You're what, 25? 26? The clock is ticking. You're not going to be able to get by on that strained smile forever. You're built for service, I get it. But you're aiming too low." Coby felt a cold knot tighten in his stomach. This wasn't just a rude customer. This was a predator. Taylor pulled the coffee pot back, her hand shaking slightly. "Is there anything else I can get you, Mr. Holloway?" "Yeah, a real cup of coffee, from a real coffee shop, in a real city." He waved his hand dismissively. "Get out of here, and take the bill. I'm not waiting another 20 minutes for you to figure out the credit card machine." Taylor retreated to the counter, her face pale. She began fussing with the ancient register, her back to the room. Coby walked over to the counter and sat on one of the stools. "Rough night," he said quietly. Taylor jumped, startled. "Oh, Greg, sorry, I forgot you were here. Yeah, you could say that. The payphone working for you." "Lines are down. Storm," Coby said. "That man Holloway, is he always like that?" Taylor finally let the fake smile drop. It felt like taking off a heavy coat. "Only on days that end in Y. He's a local. Big shot. He's a capital investor or something. Bought up a bunch of properties in Pineview. Thinks he's the next king of the world. Mr. Henderson is terrified of him because he's 6 months behind on the lease. and Holloway's new company just bought the building. Holloway is, effectively, his landlord. This explained Henderson's terrified passivity. So he comes in here, Taylor continued, her voice low and bitter. Orders the most expensive thing we don't really have, complains about it for an hour, harasses me and Janine, and leaves a generous 10% tip. But hey, at least he's paying, right? That's not a customer, Coby said. That's a bully. A bully with my boss's future in his pocket, Taylor whispered. And by extension, mine. I need this job, Greg. I really need it. Why? Coby asked, genuinely curious. Taylor hesitated. She looked at this stranger, this Greg, with his kind eyes and his waterlogged jacket. He looked like he understood what it was to be at the bottom of the barrel. He wasn't trying to flirt with her. He wasn't judging her. He was just listening. My sister Lila, she said, nodding toward the photo on her car's dashboard, which he'd seen. She's sick. Really sick. CML, it's a rare type of, well, it's bad. The insurance I get through this job it's terrible, but it's something. It covers about 10% of her treatments. The rest, I'm trying to crowdfund. I work doubles here, and I have a data entry gig I do online from midnight to 3 a.m. And I'm still drowning. She wiped an angry tear from her eye. So yeah, I'll let Brenton Holloway call me sweetheart and incompetent for $12.50 an hour, because if I don't, Lila doesn't get her medicine. End of story. Coby stared at her. He dealt with numbers that had 9, 10, 12 zeros. He signed checks that could fund small countries. And this woman was fighting for her sister's life with tips from a man like Brenton Holloway. He's getting up, Coby said, nodding toward the booth. Holloway threw a few bills onto the table and sauntered toward the door, his date trailing behind him. He stopped at the counter, right in front of Taylor. Here you go, sweetheart, he said, pulling a $20 bill from his money clip. He didn't hand it to her. He held it up, looking at her, then at Coby. And for your friend. Tell him to get a haircut and a job. He was about to drop the money on the counter when he paused. He looked at Taylor, a cruel, impulsive idea dawning on his face. He was still holding the thick chocolate milkshake his date had ordered and not touched. You know, Holloway said, I just realized I'm not satisfied. I'm not satisfied at all. And with a flick of his wrist, he upended the milkshake. Not on the floor, not on the counter, directly over Taylor's head. Time slowed down. Coby watched the thick, icy cold liquid hit the crown of Taylor's head. It wasn't a quick splash. It was a deliberate, viscous pour. It coated her hair in dark brown sludge, ran in rivulets down her face, over her eyes, and dripped from her chin onto her uniform. The sheer, calculated malice of the act hung in the air, thick and suffocating. A few strawberries from the bottom of the glass plopped onto her shoulder, then to the floor. The diner went utterly silent. Even the buzzing fluorescent light seemed to faint. Mr. Henderson, who had been in the back, poked his head out, his eyes widening in horror. The woman with Holloway gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, though her eyes were wide with a kind of morbid excitement. Taylor just stood there, frozen, her eyes squeezed shut. She didn't make a sound. She was trembling, either from the cold of the shake or the sheer force of the humiliation. Brenton Holloway laughed. It was not a small chuckle. It was a loud, braying laugh that echoed in the small space. "Oh, man," he roared, setting the empty glass down with a thud. "You should see your face. That's an improvement, actually." He tossed the $20 bill onto the floor. It landed in the spreading puddle of chocolate and ice cream at her feet. "That's for the dry cleaning, sweetie," he sneered. "Consider it a tip for the extra service." He turned, adjusting the cuffs of his suit. "Let's go, babe. This place is a dump." He and his date walked out. The bell on the door chimed their exit. And still, Taylor didn't move. She just stood, arms limp at her sides, as the milkshake continued to drip, drip, drip onto the worn tiles. Coby felt a rage so cold and pure it almost took his breath away. It was a feeling he hadn't experienced in decades. It was the feeling of seeing an equation that was fundamentally, morally wrong. "Taylor," he said, his voice quiet. She flinched, as if his voice had broken the spell. She let out a small, strangled sob, a sound of utter defeat. She turned, not looking at him, not looking at Henderson, and ran into the small back room, marked "Employees Only." The door swung shut behind her. Mr. Henderson looked at Coby, then at the mess, then at the $20 bill on the floor. With a sigh that seemed to drain the last bit of life from him, he grabbed a rag, bent down, and picked up the $20 bill. He wiped it clean and put it in the register before starting to mop up the puddle. "She's a good kid," Henderson muttered, as if to himself. "Doesn't deserve this." "No," Coby said, his voice a low growl. "She doesn't." Coby walked back to the payphone. He picked up the receiver. He didn't dial Gavin's private number. He dialed the central switchboard for Simmons Dynamics, a number he hadn't personally dialed in a decade, but one that was permanently staffed, 24/7, 365, with military-grade redundancy. It could not fail. It rang once. "Simmons Dynamics, Global Operations. How may I direct your call?" The voice was crisp, professional, and awake. "This is Alpha Zero," Coby said, using his override code. "Patch me through to Gavin Ross's secure line. Priority 1. Authenticate. Simmons Tango 77 Delta." There was a half-second pause. The operator's voice was gone, replaced by a series of encrypted clicks, and then a solid, ringing tone. "This is Ross." Gavin's voice was gravel, even at what must have been 3 a.m. his time. "Gavin," Coby said, "I have 2 situations. First, I am stranded. The Aura prototype is a bust. I'm at a location called the Lookout Diner in Pineview, Oregon. I need extraction. Bring the transport. And bring the Maybach." "Understood. ETA 90 minutes, Gavin said, without a single question. "What's the second situation?" "I need a full workup on a man named Brenton Holloway. He runs a firm, possibly Holloway Capital. He's local to this area. I want to know everything, Gavin. I want his assets, his liabilities, his contracts, his partners, his ex-wives, and what he ate for breakfast. I want to know every skeleton in every closet he's ever owned, and I want it before you get here. Holloway Brenton," Gavin repeated. "Assets, liabilities, contracts, skeletons. Consider it done. Are you compromised, sir?" Coby looked at the swinging door to the back room, where he could hear the faint sound of sobbing. "No, Gavin," Coby said, his voice chilling. "But someone else is, and we're going to fix it." He hung up the phone. He took a deep breath, composing his features. The rage was still there, but it was now banked, like coal, burning low and hot and focused. He walked over to the employees only door and knocked softly. "Taylor." The sobbing stopped. "Go away. Please, just go away." "Taylor, it's Greg, the man from the road. I'm not him. I just want to make sure you're all right." There was a long silence. The door opened a crack. Her face was clean, scrubbed raw. Her hair was still matted and wet, and she had swapped her soiled uniform blouse for a faded high school sweatshirt. Her eyes were red and puffy. "Are you?" he asked gently. She shook her head, unable to speak. She opened the door wider. The back room was tiny, filled with boxes of napkins and cleaning supplies. He did that. He did that once before," she whispered, as if confessing a crime, "with a hot coffee, because I brought him the wrong kind of sweetener. Mr. Henderson he gave me a 20 from the register and told me not to make a fuss. The customer is always right. That man is not a customer, Taylor. He's a psychopath. And the customer is always right is a phrase invented to protect businesses, not to shield abusers." She looked at him, confused by his sudden intensity, his articulate precision. Who are you?" "I'm just a guy," Coby said, holding her gaze. "A guy whose car broke down, and who you were kind enough to help, and I believe in paying my debts. You don't owe me anything, Greg." "You're wrong," he said. "I do. Now, I have a tow truck coming. It'll be a little while. Do you think, could I possibly get a cup of that lukewarm coffee?" A small, watery smile touched her lips. It was the first genuine expression he'd seen from her. "Yeah," she sniffled, wiping her nose on her sleeve. "Yeah, I think I can manage that." She stepped out of the storeroom, took a deep breath, and grabbed a clean mug. As she poured him a coffee, Coby's mind was already miles away, calculating, processing, and preparing for the arrival of his team. Brenton Holloway had just made the single most expensive mistake of his life. They sat in silence for the better part of an hour. The storm raged outside, but inside the diner there was a strange calm. Taylor, having composed herself, sat in the booth opposite Coby. She drank a cup of tea, her hands wrapped around it for warmth. Mr. Henderson, having finished cleaning, had retreated to his small office to do the books, leaving them alone in the main dining area. Taylor had told him more about Lila, about the CML diagnosis, about the new experimental treatment trial at Seattle Children's Hospital, run by a renowned specialist, Dr. Aris Pembroke, that she was trying to get Lila into. But the buy-in for the trial, even with her flimsy insurance, was $50,000, a sum she equated with flying to the moon. "I do the online fundraisers," she said, staring into her cup. "I've raised $3,400 in a year, mostly from other waitresses and people in town who know Lila. It's not enough. It's never going to be enough. And I feel like I'm failing her, Greg." "You're not failing her, Taylor," Coby said, his voice firm. "You are doing the impossible just to keep your head above water. The system is failing you." "The system," she scoffed lightly. "The system doesn't care. At the end of the day, it's just Brenton Holloway's all the way down." Before Coby could respond, the world outside the diner's windows changed. A blinding, pure white light flooded the parking lot, cutting through the rain. It wasn't the scattershot yellow of headlights. It was the focused, intense beam of high-powered professional searchlights. Taylor stood up, startled, and went to the window. "What in the world? Is that a helicopter?" It wasn't. Pulling into the small, cracked parking lot was a convoy that didn't belong in this, or any, reality Taylor knew. Leading the way was a massive, black, flatbed transport truck, the kind used for moving military hardware. But this one was sleek, unbranded, and polished to a mirror shine. It was followed by two identical, gleaming black Cadillac Escalades, and pulling up directly behind them, purring with an engine sound so deep and quiet it was more of a vibration than a noise, was a Mercedes Maybach S680, a car that cost more than the diner and the land it stood on. Mr. Henderson burst out of his office. "What's going on? Is it the cops? What's happening?" The doors of the Escalades opened in unison. 4 men in identical, sharply tailored black suits emerged. They were large, athletic, and moved with the unnerving, fluid precision of professional security. One of them, a tall man with a scar on his jaw and an earpiece, scanned the parking lot, his eyes missing nothing. This was Gavin Ross. Gavin barked orders. Two of the men immediately began securing the perimeter, while the other two, along with the truck driver, unlatched the transport. "Greg," Taylor whispered, her hand on the glass. That can't be your tow truck." Coby picked up his satchel and stood. He walked to the counter, pulled a $100 bill from his wallet, and placed it on the counter. "For the coffee, Mr. Henderson, and for your time." Henderson just stared at the money, then at the scene outside, then back at Coby. He was speechless. Coby walked to the door. "Taylor, come with me for a moment." I don't. "It's all right, I promise." She followed him, as if in a daze. He pushed open the diner door. The rain was still falling, but one of the security men was suddenly there, holding a large black umbrella over Coby's head. Gavin Ross strode up to them, holding a tablet. "Mr. Simmons, the Aura is ready for transport. The car is here. We're wheels up as soon as you are." Taylor froze. She looked from Gavin to the umbrella, to the Maybach, and then to Greg. "Mr. Simmons," she repeated, her voice a tiny squeak. Coby looked at her. The illusion of Greg the mechanic was gone. The man standing in front of her now was someone else, entirely. The kindness was still in his eyes, but it was overlaid with an aura of absolute, undeniable authority. "Taylor Riley," he said, his voice clear and formal. "I apologize for the deception. My name is Coby Simmons. I'm the founder of Simmons Dynamics." Taylor's brain tried to process this. Simmons Dynamics. The name was vaguely familiar. A tech company? No. It was everything. They were the ones building the new aerospace campus outside Portland. They were a name she heard on the news, associated with government contracts and stock markets. And then, from the side, came a choked, horrified gasp. Brenton Holloway was standing by his BMW. He hadn't left. He and his date had been waiting out the storm, which really meant they were making out in his front seat. The arrival of the convoy had startled them, and he'd gotten out, furious, ready to yell at whatever local yokel was shining a light on him. And he saw Coby Simmons. Holloway knew that face, not from magazines, but from the deep dive research his firm did. He'd been trying to get a meeting with Simmons Dynamics real estate division for 6 months. He was trying to get them to invest in his Pine View redevelopment project, the one that involved him buying up properties like the Lookout Diner. He was trying to get a $150 million contract from the man he had, less than an hour ago, looked in the eye and called a drowned rat. He was trying to get funding from the man who had just watched him pour a milkshake over the head of a waitress. Holloway's face, in the glare of the transport's lights, turned a shade of white that was almost phosphorescent. Mr. Simmons, he stammered, taking a step forward. "Mr. Coby Simmons, I'm Brenton Holloway, Holloway Capital. I had no idea. Sir, it's an honor." He was practically bowing, his expensive suit soaked, his hair plastered to his forehead. Coby didn't even look at him. His entire focus was on Taylor, who was staring at him, her mind reeling from the shock. "Taylor," Coby said, his voice soft, "I need to go. But before I do, I'd like to offer you a job. A real one. Not serving coffee to him." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a simple, impossibly heavy, black metal business card. He handed it to her. It read, "Coby Simmons, founder and CEO. Simmons Dynamics." Taylor looked at the card, then at Holloway's terrified, groveling face, then back at the billionaire in the faded field jacket. I don't understand," she whispered. "Mr. Simmons," Holloway pleaded, practically crawling now. Please, a moment of your time. What happened in there? That was just a joke, a misunderstanding." Coby Simmons finally turned. He looked at Brenton Holloway, his eyes as cold and dead as the Aura's engine, and he spoke. "A misunderstanding," Coby repeated. The words hung in the rainy air, flat and heavy. Gavin Ross, sensing the shift in his boss's tone, took one step back, clasping his hands behind his back. He had the tablet with Holloway's file open, but he knew Coby wouldn't need it. This was no longer a business analysis. This was a demolition. "Mr. Holloway," Coby said, taking a slow step toward him. The security man with the umbrella moved with him, keeping him perfectly dry while Holloway was pelted by the sleet. "Yes, sir. Mr. Simmons, sir." Holloway was wiping rain and sweat from his face, his confident smirk replaced by a rictus of pure panic. "I'm so glad we're finally meeting. I've been sending proposals to your real estate division for months. The Ethelred project, the Pineview Gateway. I have projections, sir, that—" "Shut up!" It was not a yell. It was a simple command, delivered with the quiet finality of a judge passing sentence. Holloway's mouth snapped closed with an audible click. "I have a question for you, Mr. Holloway," Coby said, stopping just a few feet from him. "You define yourself as a capital investor. Your job, ostensibly, is to assess value. You walk into a room, and you decide what's worth investing in, and what's disposable. Aye. Yes, sir. Asset analysis, it's... So you walked into that diner tonight, and you made an assessment. You looked at Mr. Henderson and you saw leverage, a desperate man you could squeeze for your lease. You looked at me, and you saw disposable. A homeless man, a drowned rat, someone worth less than the gum on your shoe. And then you looked at Taylor." Coby paused. He turned his head slightly to look at Taylor, who was standing by the diner door, pale and shivering, watching this unreal scene. "You saw a young woman working a double shift in a failing diner, and you assessed her. You assessed her as nothing, a toy, something you could humiliate for your own amusement, a dead end built for service." Those were your words, weren't they? Holloway was shaking his head, sputtering. "No, sir, it was a rapport. We joke around. Right, Taylor? Tell him. We joke." Taylor just stared at him, her eyes burning with a silent, blistering contempt. "Your assessment, Mr. Holloway, was flawed," Coby continued, his voice lethally calm. "You made the single worst business decision of your entire life. You mistook kindness for weakness. You mistook dignity for servitude. And you mistook a uniform for an invitation to abuse." "Please, Mr. Simmons," Holloway whispered. "My team," Coby said, gesturing to Gavin, "did a little reading on you while I was waiting. It's fascinating. Holloway Capital. You're not a capital investor. You're a vulture. You're leveraged to the hilt. You're using predatory loans to buy up distressed properties, like this diner, with the hope of flipping them. And your primary line of credit? It comes from, yes, the Portland Merchants Trust." Holloway's eyes went wide. The blood drained from his face. "The Portland Merchants Trust," Coby said, "was acquired by my private equity fund, Simmons Financial, 6 months ago, which means, Mr. Holloway, I am your banker." Holloway made a small, strangled sound. He looked like he was going to be sick, right there in the parking lot. "Your portfolio is a house of cards," Coby said, "and you just poured a milkshake on your one line of credit. Gavin." "Sir," Gavin said, stepping forward with the tablet, "initiate a full, immediate audit of all of Holloway Capital's outstanding loans. I want every I dotted, every T Crossed. I suspect we'll find numerous covenant breaches. Call the note. Call all of them. As of 9 a.m. tomorrow, Mr. Holloway's assets are to be frozen and seized. Liquidate his positions, blacklist his name, his partners, and every shell company he's ever created from all Simmons subsidiaries, permanently. Please, Holloway begged, tears now streaming down his face, mixing with the rain. Please, I have a family. You can't. You'll ruin me. It was just a joke. You're right, I can't, Coby said. He turned to Gavin. Also, contact our legal team. I want a pro bono team assigned to Miss Riley and every other employee at that diner, past and present. I want to explore a class action lawsuit against Mr. Holloway for harassment, workplace abuse, and creating a hostile work environment. I want this to follow him, personally, long after his company is a bad memory. He looked back at Holloway, whose legs finally gave out. The man actually crumpled, falling to his knees on the wet asphalt, sobbing. You're not being ruined by me, Mr. Holloway, Coby said, turning his back on him. You're being ruined by you. You just needed someone to show you the math. He walked back to Taylor. He gently took the umbrella from the security man and held it over her. She was staring at the pathetic, broken man kneeling in the rain, the man who had terrified her for months. You did that, she whispered. You just ended him. He ended himself, Coby said. He just didn't know the date of execution, now, about that job offer. The world had tilted on its axis. Taylor looked from the weeping man in the parking lot to the billionaire holding an umbrella over her head. The rain was a deafening roar, but in their small, dry bubble, it was perfectly still. A job, she repeated numbly. Mr. Simmons, I'm a waitress. I have half a community college degree in general studies. I clean up spilled milkshakes. What kind of job could you possibly offer me? Taylor, Coby said, for the last 2 years, I have been trying to fill a position at my foundation. The Simmons Foundation manages the philanthropic arm of my company. We have billions in assets, and we give away about $500 million as a year. He watched her face. The numbers were clearly not computing. They were monopoly money, abstract and meaningless. I've interviewed dozens of people, he continued. People with PhDs from Harvard, MBAs from Stanford. They all talk a great game. They talk about impact metrics, leveraged philanthropy, and scalable solutions. But not one of them, not one, could look a person in the eye and see their actual value. They see demographics. They see case studies. They see the underprivileged. He gestured back at the diner. Tonight I saw something different. I saw a woman who, despite being exhausted, broke and bullied, stopped to help a total stranger on a dark road. I saw a woman who endured humiliation with a dignity I've never seen in my own boardroom. And I saw a woman who is literally killing herself to save her sister, because the system, as you call it, is broken. He met her gaze. I don't need another academic, Taylor. I need a humanist. I need someone to run the Foundation's new Community Impact Division. Someone who understands what it's like to be on the receiving end. Someone with empathy, integrity, and a backbone of steel. I need someone to find the other Taylors and Lilas of the world, the ones the system is failing. I'm offering you that job. The starting salary is $350,000 a year, full benefits, and you'll report directly to me. Taylor's legs felt weak. $350,000. The number was so absurd, she almost laughed. It was more than she would make in a decade at the diner. But my sister, she stammered. Lila, I can't leave her. The job. Is it in California? The job, Coby said with a small smile. is wherever you need to be. We have an office in Portland. But more importantly, about Lila." He nodded to Gavin, who stepped forward and handed the tablet to Taylor. On the screen was a file. Patient, Lila Riley. Case, CML, chronic myelogenous leukemia. Status, accepted. Pembroke Trial, Seattle Children's Hospital. Sponsor, the Simmons Foundation. Payment, all past, present, and future. Medical costs covered in full. Taylor read the words, but her brain refused to assemble them. What? How? I didn't... When you told me about Lila, Coby explained, I had my team contact Dr. Aris Pembroke. He's an old friend. He reviewed Lila's file. He agrees she is a perfect candidate for the trial. A medical transport helicopter will be at Pine View General Hospital at 7 a.m. to fly you and your sister to Seattle. Dr. Pembroke will meet you personally. Taylor's knees buckled. This time, Coby caught her, his hand firm on her elbow. She wasn't crying. She was in a state of shock so profound it was like she'd been struck by lightning. You paid it, she whispered. The $50,000. We paid all of it, Coby corrected gently. The $50,000 was just the buy-in. The full treatment, well, let's just say you never have to think about a medical bill again. Ever. At that moment, Mr. Henderson stepped outside, wringing his hands. Mr. Simmons, sir, I saw that man, Holloway. Is what you said true? Is he... Is the diner? Coby turned to him. Mr. Henderson, as of tomorrow, your lease is terminated. But not in the way you think. He took the tablet back from Taylor. Gavin, bring up the file on 1140 Skyline Drive. Yes, sir. The property is underwater. Mr. Holloway's loan is $400,000. The property itself is assessed at $250,000. Excellent, Coby said. Mr. Henderson, I'm forgiving the loan. The Simmons Foundation is acquiring the property and the business. The diner is now debt-free. You are no longer in danger of foreclosure. Henderson looked like he was going to faint. I don't know what to say. But, Coby continued, it comes with a condition. Taylor, this is your choice. You can take the job with me. Or, if you'd rather stay here with your family, I will make you a 50% partner in this diner, effective immediately. We'll fund a full renovation. You and Mr. Henderson can run it together. The choice is entirely yours. Come with me and change the world, or stay here and change your community. It was an impossible choice. Taylor looked at the diner, the place that had been her prison for 3 years. She looked at Mr. Henderson, a good man trapped by a bad system. She looked at the Maybach, purring and waiting, a chariot to a different universe. And she looked at the tablet, which held the single most important thing in her life, Lila's future. She took a deep breath, the cold, rainy air filling her lungs and clearing her head for the first time in years. She knew exactly who she was. I can't take your job, Mr. Simmons, she said, her voice shaking but gaining strength. Coby's eyebrows rose, surprised. I want to, she hurried to explain. But I'm not that person. I'm not a director. I'm just... me. I'd be terrified. I'd fail. Taylor, I don't hire people who are qualified, Coby said. I hire people who have character. I can teach you business. I can't teach you integrity. I know, she said, a tear finally rolling down her cheek. This one wasn't for sadness. It was for relief. So, how about a compromise? I'm listening. I'll take the job, she said, but not as a director. Not yet. Let me be your apprentice, your assistant. Let me learn. Let me prove I'm worth that $350,000. Let me earn it. A slow, broad smile spread across Coby Simmons's face. It was the first one she'd seen. "And the diner?" he asked. "Give my 50% to Mr. Henderson," she said, turning to her boss, who was now openly weeping. "On one condition, you rename it. Call it Lila's Lookout. And every Tuesday, you use the profits to give free meals to families from the hospital." Henderson just nodded, unable to speak. "Taylor Riley," Coby Simmons said. "You've been negotiating for less than 5 minutes, and you've already saved a business, created a community food program, and secured your sister's health. I'd say you're a natural." He extended his hand. "Your first day is tomorrow. Your first assignment, fly to Seattle and sit with your sister until she is 100% in remission. Your salary starts now." Taylor looked at his hand. It was no longer the hand of Greg the mechanic. It was the hand of Coby Simmons, the most powerful man she'd ever met. She took it. "Okay," she said. "Okay. I'm ready." Gavin opened the rear door of the Maybach. The interior was lit with a soft, warm light and looked more like a private jet than a car. "Gavin will drive you home, Taylor," Coby said. "He'll stay with you until the transport arrives for you and Lila in the morning." Where are you going?" she asked, gesturing to the transport truck, where his futuristic car was now being strapped down. Coby said, "am going to have a very long, very loud conversation with my engineering department." He gave her a respectful nod, turned, and walked to the Escalade. He climbed in, and a moment later, the convoy, the truck, the SUVs, pulled out of the parking lot and disappeared into the storm as quickly as it had arrived. Taylor was left standing in the parking lot, holding a black metal business card, as the door of a $500,000 Maybach was held open for her. She looked at the diner, at the broken man who was still sobbing on the asphalt, and took her first step into her new life. The next 6 months were a blur. True to Coby's word, a state-of-the-art medical helicopter landed in the rain-soaked field behind Pineview General. Taylor and Lila were flown to Seattle, where Dr. Eris Pembroke and a team of specialists were waiting. Lila was admitted to the CML trial, and for the first time, her prognosis was not just stable. It was promising. Taylor spent the first 2 months living in a luxury corporate apartment, paid for by Simmons Dynamics, just 2 blocks from the hospital. She spent her days by Lila's bedside, and her nights on a new, high-powered laptop, taking online courses in business management, finance, and non-profit law, all paid for by the company. She was, as she'd requested, an apprentice. She had a weekly 2-hour video call with Coby Simmons. He was patient, acting as a teacher. He'd walked her through the complete dismantling of Holloway Capital. It had been, as he'd predicted, a house of cards. The firm collapsed in 72 hours. The class action lawsuit, led by Simmons's legal team, had resulted in a multi-million-dollar settlement for over 30 employees and contractors whom Holloway had defrauded or abused. The last Taylor heard, Brenton Holloway was facing criminal charges for fraud and was working as a used car salesman in another state, his name and reputation worthless. The karmic debt had been paid in full. After 2 months, Lila's condition had improved so dramatically she was moved to outpatient status. Taylor, her mind now sharp and her purpose clear, flew to the Simmons Dynamics headquarters in California. She walked into the towering glass skyscraper, not as a waitress, but as the special assistant to the CEO. She was given a simple, elegant office next to Coby's. Her first assignment wasn't to find other Taylors. It was to fix a system. Coby tasked her with overhauling the Simmons Employee Benefits Program. "You know what's broken," he told her. "Fix it for all 50,000 of our people." Taylor dived in. She spent months working with HR and the insurance carriers, using her own terrible plan as the baseline for what not to do. She fought with executives, She analyzed spreadsheets, and she presented her findings to the board. The new Simmons Cares initiative was revolutionary. It guaranteed comprehensive health coverage for all employees and their families, fully covering pre-existing conditions and experimental treatments. It created a family hardship fund, a resource for employees facing unexpected crises, just like she had. Coby Simmons had been right. He could teach her business. Her integrity was what made it work. 1 year after that rainy night, Taylor stood on a small stage. She was back in Pineview. Behind her was a brand new, beautifully renovated building. The sign in bright, warm neon read, "Lila's Lookout." The diner was a thriving success. Mr. Henderson, now debt-free and smiling, ran the front, and the kitchen was serving free, hot meals to the community every single Tuesday, just as she'd asked. Taylor, dressed in a sharp blazer, was dedicating the new Taylor Riley Community Wing of the Pineview Clinic, funded entirely by the Simmons Foundation. Her sister, Lila, her hair grown back and her face glowing with health, stood next to her, holding her hand. Coby Simmons watched from the back of the small crowd, unseen. Just another face. He looked at the clinic, at the diner, and at the woman he'd met on the side of the road. His prototype Aura car had been a failure, but his investment in Taylor Riley was the most successful venture of his entire career. Taylor finished her speech, thanking the community. She didn't talk about Holloway or the humiliation. She talked about kindness. "We all have 2 jobs in this life," she said, her voice carrying in the clear afternoon air. "We have the job that pays our bills, and we have the job of seeing each other, of recognizing the value in the person right in front of us, no matter what they're wearing or where they work. One small act of kindness, one moment of seeing someone's true worth, can change a life. It can save a life. It saved my sister's. It saved mine." She looked over the crowd, and her eyes found Coby. He gave her a small, respectful nod. She smiled and turned back to her community. The story of Taylor and Coby Simmons is a powerful reminder that our true character isn't defined by our job title or our bank account. It's defined by how we treat people when we have all the power, and how we act when we have none at all. Brenton Holloway saw the world in terms of winners and losers, and in the end, his own cruelty made him the biggest loser of all. Taylor, who had nothing, gave what she could, kindness, and in return gained everything. What did you think of this story? Do you believe in karmic justice? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one. If you were moved by Taylor's story, please show your support by hitting that like button and sharing this video with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss another story of justice and transformation.